Hello game cats, welcome to Viewer Takeover sub to PSVR without Parole from Wait for It Dust Daily.
This is PSVR Gamescast Live, where we film live every Tuesday afternoon and bring it to YouTube live as PSVR Gamescast Live.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a totally different show.
That's the opening.
That's yesterday.
Okay.
No, actually, that was 2 days ago because this show was late. So sorry to everybody.
Yeah.
Man, I hope Robert Sullivan's not mad at us.
We've got snow, we've got kids, we got all sorts of crap going on here. So we're very sorry about the tardiness, but we're here.
And every Wednesday, every yesterday is Viewer Takeover when we let you, the loyal game cats, let you take over the show. Des is tired, don't mind him.
I never get it right anyways.
I know.
There's no excuses.
It's fun to point it out for everyone. First up, we want to thank Dust Daily for that awesome Viewer Takeover introduction. That's pretty much the extent of it. Thank you so much for sending that in. And make sure that if you want to introduce next week's show, well, we've got one in the queue, but if you want to introduce the one after that, you better get your butt in the queue and send your Viewer Takeover introduction to withoutparole@gmail.com. But we also want to thank these people. These people down here. These are our loyal, fluffy Patreon supporters. They all went to patreon.com/withoutparole.
Games.
And this
Jeremy?
is awesome. Yeah, very nice. And they're giving us $1 or more every single month. We do want to say real quick, we're going to be doing a huge Patreon push soon. We want to make sure that everyone knows that this channel lives and breathes on the very small amount of Patreon income that we get every month. So trust me when I say that if you don't support us on Patreon and you consider giving us $1 a month, we would be eternally in your debt.
Yes.
We're going to do a huge live stream at some point soon. I don't know if it's going to be a 12-hour or 24-hour live stream, but it's going to be me just pushing the crap out of the Patreon page for 24 hours while I stream video games.
Yahoo.
It's going to be crazy. I'm going to be real tired. So thank you very much to all of our Patreon supporters who now get Litterbox episodes every week, but that's it. Because we totally nixed MP3s, and I apologize to everyone who liked those. And then finally, we want to thank all the people who followed Beauty and the Decay's lead, a.k.a. Matt the Game Cat, who we haven't heard from in a very long time. I hope he's okay.
Yeah.
And they changed their name to something the Game Cat. Please don't do that. So who changed your name to Game Cat this week, Desiree?
Paul Horton actually followed your direct command and changed his name to Paul Horton, the Game Cat.
Bing. Is this what power feels like?
I guess.
This is what power feels like.
And we have a brand new, apparently a brand new member of the Game Cat community, Arch Superfly Game Cat.
What a great name.
Yeah, who's only left one comment, but talking about how much they love Amanda. So,
and what a great comment it was, right? Yeah, I'm suspicious.
It's not Amanda.
And then finally,
we have Game Cat, the hashtag hotcakes,
which every week,
I'm just so confused.
It's the weekly shout out to hotcakes.
So thank you, hotcakes.
Absolutely. If you change your name to Game Cat, make sure you tell us in the comments that you changed it, because now there's so many Game Cats I can't keep track of who's new and who's old. But we're all kind of.
We tried checking each YouTube user one at a time every week, but that was taking way too long.
Hey, Brian, how come your Intruders Hide and Seek review isn't done? I was like, I was too busy clicking on everybody's name. So thank you very much. Hashtag GameCat. We love you all. So, but on Viewer Takeover, what we do every week.
I just had a vision of someone with two huge piles of printed out names. I'm like, no.
33,000 names comparing and contrasting.
No. Oh, this one changed. No. Okay, sorry.
But what we do here every week on Viewer Takeover, in case this is your first time, it's always this bad. I promise you. We look for the hashtag Viewer Takeover, and we read your comments and your questions on the air, pre-recorded, and then we answer them, because that's what we do.
Yes.
All right. First up comes from Robert McAllister from last week's episode of Viewer Takeover. It's hashtag Viewer Takeover. He knows how to do this. Right. I was recently on a game site for the remake of Resident Evil 2, and I commented that the game looks great, but I was disappointed there wasn't a VR mode. I proceeded to get comments back saying, fuck your VR. VR sucks, and VR is dead. My question is, why do gamers hate VR and want it to fail? I would have thought most gamers would have loved to be playing inside the game. Even some PSVR owners commented they haven't touched their headset in months because the games suck. Are they even paying attention to the good games being released? If we don't support these good games, we will never get big developers. Why all the hate?
I think you kind of got to the core of it down at the end there. It's like, oh, this game isn't popular. It's not plastered all over a billboard, so it must suck. Like, okay, I know we're beating a dead horse here, but just because it's popular doesn't mean it's good. And just because it's unpopular doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah.
So let's just table that.
Yeah, I think that VR is going to get a lot of vitriol until we do start getting like yearly Assassin's Creed games in VR or yearly Call of Duty games in VR because it's just the unpopular independent platform right now, and that's fine by us for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
We love like the innovation that's coming out of it.
Right, and that's the thing. Like whenever you're introducing a new technology, a new anything, you're going to have the independent people because they're the only ones who are able to take a risk or willing to take a risk. And it's like, you know what? We don't know if this is going to work. Let's grab, you, me, and my friend and crank out a game in 6 years.
Yeah. And also like with such a smaller library of games, this is a place where independent games can shine. I think if Apex Construct came out in non-VR, I think everyone would be like, oh, that looks nice, and then but 90 million people would just like sail right by it and be like, oh, what else is there? Instead, when Apex Construct came out, we weren't getting a ton of stuff on the PlayStation Store for VR, and it got a lot of attention, and I think that's that's something that's very hard to come by for independent studios. Unpaid advertisements.
Yeah, I'm honestly happy we're not seeing like the 16th entry in some super massively popular series. Because I've played Assassin's Creed many, many times, and it gets better, blah blah blah, but it's the same game-ish. Okay, I like the fact that this is new. I'm firing up a game. When we review something, like we talked about a little bit in the I don't even know when this is going to air, but
I don't know.
I try to go into a game cold because I don't want any expectations, and I am constantly pleasantly surprised in VR. I am not constantly pleasantly surprised by your big AAA titles. It's like, oh, is it beige? Is it gray? Do I have a gun? Okay, well, there's 90% of the titles that have been released.
And to be fair, obviously, we do want Call of Duty, we do want Assassin's Creed, we want these games on PlayStation VR. Mostly to drive attention to our platform of choice, right? Not because we specifically want to play them, although I would love to see what Call of Duty with a huge AAA Activision budget behind it looks like on PlayStation VR. But really, I think to get to the root of Robert's problem is I think this all goes back to when we were little kids on the playground. Remember the console wars?
Yeah.
Right? Remember when that was a thing? Like, it still is a thing, but we don't think about it that much because we're adults.
Yeah.
Right? There are still kids on the playground smoking crack saying, hey, Xbox is better than PlayStation, and they're all demented.
Yeah.
But the point is that, like, I remember like, vehemently defending the Sega Genesis when I was a kid, right? Because I was dumb. Right? Not because the Sega Genesis was better or worse than the Super Nintendo, but because that's all I had.
Right.
And so as a kid, when you only have one thing, that's what you're going to defend to the death. And I think with the advent of the internet and poor parental supervision, I think we have a lot of people online that are talking some mad shit who like are probably 10 years old.
Right.
Right. I think that's where a lot of the hate comes from.
Never actually played it either.
Never played VR.
Yeah.
And then there's like the adults who just never grew up and are like, I don't want my hobby to change. Right.
Yes.
I love my flat screen games and I don't want that taken away from me. And so there's like this hatred of something they don't understand. And that scares me.
Yep.
Because that usually speaks to their entire personality and how they think of the world. And so those people scare me a little bit because the world is very different. It's filled with all sorts of different people and different ideas and concepts. And if you're not open to those, then like you're probably not watching our channel right now.
Yeah, no, this, I mean, this is a change. This is something I don't like. This is something different from what I expected. These are the same people who are like upset that women are interested in gaming.
It's so funny. That's exactly what I was thinking of when we
it's
were.
Like, I don't know. Not even going to get on that tangent right now. But basically, you know what? These people who say fuck your VR, tell them to fuck off. Or if they really want to fuck your VR, go download Little Star.
Just block them, man. Just block them and ignore them because this is the home of the positive VR community.
What is rule number 1? What is Dez's first litter box?
Not everything's for you.
Not everything's for you, man.
Remembered.
And not everything is for them. So if they don't like it, that's okay. They don't have to.
It was 80 litter box episodes ago.
Wow.
80.
Wow. So yeah, if you the important question for you, Robert, do you like your PSVR? If you do, screw them.
Also, what the fuck? How come we don't have Resident Evil 2 in VR? This is bullshit.
Yeah, that's kind of yeah.
All right, you're up, Asia.
All right, we have Drew Finn on
Drew.
PSVR this week. Real question: VR is dying, right? Did we just talk about this?
Well, it's
Yeah,
all
I know.
related. Yeah.
I love my PSVR, but I am just not seeing it catch on. PSVR pre-out without Parole. Oh, I see what happened.
Oh, this is a follow-up.
Yep.
I answered that comment, and then he
Gotcha.
responded. Yep.
Do you think it will catch on more quickly when the PS5 comes out? Do you think there will be a huge jump in stability and graphics and immersion on new hardware that will make people feel like they have to get it? I think we got two issues here.
Let's take the first part first.
Okay.
Is VR dying?
No.
I want to say it's having a very slow birth.
Yeah, well, I mean, but just look at the amount of content that's come out. Like, if you asked us this a year ago, I think I've said this before, I would say, yeah,
We don't know yet.
maybe. But
Yeah.
no, there's so many games coming out in the past month or two alone. It's just, yeah, I think we're starting to see, developers taking a little more seriously, getting their feet wet, figuring out what they can do with the hardware, and actually starting to say, oh yeah, we can do this after all. Let's go after it.
A lot of people like to compare PlayStation VR to the Vita, like being like, here's something that PlayStation put out that's dying a slow death, and I think that's the wrong comparison. I think the correct comparison, it's to a smaller scale, I think, but the correct comparison is the PlayStation 1. PlayStation 1 came out in 1995. Do you know when we got Final Fantasy VII? Do you know when we got Metal Gear Solid 1? Those were two seminal, monumental games, and before that, it was like it's good stuff, but it wasn't great stuff. Those games didn't come out until 3 and 4 years into this platform. 95 and 96 went completely by without a Final Fantasy or Metal Gear Solid game. 2 full years, and then I forget which one came out first. But then we got one, and then the following year we got the next, and that was like those games proved to anyone who didn't believe in the PlayStation 1 that this is a console you need to get, and that this is pushing toward the future. And we are only at that point now with PlayStation VR, where we've already gotten Skyrim, we've already gotten Resident Evil 7. It's just be patient. This is an amazing time, and I'm thrilled that we're all part of it. And then the second part of the question.
Yeah, well, actually, that's the part. So actually, there's 3 parts. So, do you think there'll be a huge jump in stability and graphics and immersion on new hardware? Yes. Yeah, that's going to be huge. Do I think that's what's going to make the difference? No, I don't think that's going to make the difference.
Please tell me.
I've been banging this gong since day one. The only thing that's going to get people on board with VR is getting them in a headset and trying it.
This is very true.
Okay, you can say, oh yeah, this is twice the graphics capability. Looks better. It's got blah 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 blah. They're not going to care because all they see is videos that look like the games they already have.
Yeah.
And why am I? Except now this is a game I already have, but I have to wear this stupid headset.
Yeah, until you put that stupid headset on,
you
will never experience the immersion.
And until, I think Oculus has done it. I think Vive has done it. I don't know why Sony isn't setting up just even like the biggest malls out there, just one guy making minimum wage saying, hey, Bob, you want to try this?
Yeah.
Because that will make all the difference. And yeah, you know what? If PS5 comes out with support for the new shiny 4K monitor per each eye, crazy resolution, wireless, it doesn't matter until people actually try it out.
Yeah, and I'm gonna add a little bit to that, saying that I think right now where we're at, developers sort of have to make a choice when it comes to graphics.
Yeah.
Let's go. Do we want Job Simulator cell shaded graphics and have them super high res, or do you want we're pushing the boundaries of photorealism with like Resident Evil 7, but it's got to be like kind of really low res.
Yeah.
And I think it's only gonna take one generation more. Right, and I'm talking like we don't even need a PSVR 2 headset. We just need the power of the PlayStation 5 behind this headset, so you can be like, here's your photorealistic Resident Evil graphics with the resolution of a job simulator. Like, it's like that is it's going to take such a minimal amount of extra power for that to happen, and that's when and I think that's when people are going to be like, oh. This isn't fuzzy anymore. This is nice, because I think that is something people watch our videos and stuff, and they put the headset on and they go, "Oh, it's a little blurry."
Yeah,
it's a little blurry, but you get over that real fast. And I think if you don't have to get over that at all,
Yeah, right.
that's going to change some people's minds pretty quickly. All right, man, we were talking a lot. So Jolly Jelly from Viewer Takeover writes hashtag Viewer Takeover.
Oh, you know what? We don't have Jeremy here to keep us in line.
Yeah, that's right. Seriously. No 80s movies talk to keep us going. Here it's hashtag Viewer Takeover. Hello, Game Cats.
Hello.
I'm quite new here, so I don't know if you get this question a lot. We do. But after playing Skyrim, I was thinking about other remasters that would fit on PlayStation VR. Everyone is saying Bioshock, but my mind wanders to Mirror's Edge, which could really benefit from standing up on a high building. Other ideas: Resistance Trilogy, Killzone Trilogy, Black, Time Splitters Trilogy, Ratchet and Clank Future Trilogy. And do you think some of these are not happening because of the missing analog stick on the Move controller? I always have to tape my DualShock 4 to the left Move controller to use one for movement in Skyrim.
That's amazing.
I was like, I want to take the last part first, please. This is like quiz show.
Wow. Can we see a picture?
Yeah, so here's the thing, Jolly Jelly, which, by the way, next week we want to see Jolly Jelly, the game cat.
Yeah.
It just sounds better. I think you need to put down the DualShock 4, right? Get used to the Move controls.
Yeah.
Right? Because once you get used to it, takes a while to be like, oh, this is how I move around in this 3D world in VR. We're not getting analog sticks anytime soon. I would say just do it, man.
Yes, we know there was another patent leak. Okay,
Yeah.
we're aware of that.
We're aware. Sony's patenting the crap out of everything.
Right.
We won't see that for like 2 more years. I'm always wrong about these things, though. It's going to be out tomorrow and be like, oh, I had no idea. Get used to it. I don't think these games aren't coming because of the missing analog stick. I think Sony's out of their mind for not diving into these old IPs, though.
Yeah.
I mean, the Resistance trilogy, the Killzone trilogy, these are some great games that would be so much better in VR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you want to play Mirror's Edge in VR, we have a game. It's called To the Top. It's about as close as you're going to get, and in a lot of ways, it's actually more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is speaking. I love Mirror's Edge. Don't get me wrong, but
I always like Windlands, but it's not. It's definitely not the action of Mirror's Edge or. I don't know. I do like web swinging around everywhere. It's really good stuff. I just want to throw my 2 cents in. Everybody talks about Sports Champions. Sports Champions 1 and 2 would be awesome in VR. I was just going through my collection. I was like, why don't we have Demon Souls in VR? Why not first-person Demon Souls? 3D Dot Game Heroes. This is the one I really want to talk about. 3D Dot Game Heroes. Everyone goes, Minecraft is such an obvious fit for VR, right? And I was like, let's take it a step further, man. Like, Microsoft owns Minecraft.
Yep.
Atlas owns 3D Dot Game Heroes, which is basically the original Legend of Zelda, but kind of like in a 3D voxelized world.
Yeah. Yep.
And I was like, throw me in first person, or even not, like even in third person.
Right.
This would be amazing to play in VR. It already looks beautiful on the PlayStation 3 on a flat screen. Let me play it from the inside. And that's just one of those random things that I'm like, this needs to happen. And I harp on about Dead Island all the time. Dead Island is not the greatest game ever, but man, I had a blast with it, and that should be in VR too.
Yeah. So I mean, we all have our list of stuff we'd like to see in VR, but the thing is, I mean, most of these are owned by big developers, and they're still waiting to see how things are going to fall.
That's actually very, very true.
Yep.
All right, you're up, Asia.
All right, so Adrian Viela, Midnight Games Cast topic of the week, our first week with PSVR.
You went way back into the archives.
That is way back.
Way back.
At 3:40. Oh, at 3:40 in the video. PSVR Parole was born. #viewer takeover. What game brought you the experience that made you decide that you wanted to cover PSVR exclusively? Also, Brian, I've had this question for a long time now. With all the work you put into your channel and also serving in a restaurant, how can you afford an East Coast apartment? LOL. Teach me your ways, please. LOL.
I'll take the second part first.
Yeah. Because we don't live in Boston.
No, that's exactly it. East Coast is a relative term. Boston is super expensive. There are tons of places in Worcester where we are that are ridiculously cheap.
Yeah.
On top of that, like
for another 6 months or so.
Yeah, I actually bought my apartment right after the housing market crash.
Oh, okay.
And I only was able to buy it because it was ridiculously cheap, and I actually fell into a very small inheritance when my grandfather passed away. I had no money in the bank when I moved home from Tennessee. Like I was destitute, and I lived with my parents. And then I was like, and I did just enough money to put a down payment on a like a little tiny apartment, and that's where I've resided for 10 years now.
Oh.
So that's the only reason I was able to afford any property at all, even as cheap as this was. But let's.
But, prices are insane up here.
can be very insane. You have to be okay with living in the middle of the ghetto, as I am.
Yeah, that's
why
true.
I hear sirens all the time. But I mean, I think Resident Evil 7 is the clear answer for me as far as like what game like pushed me over the top. But I think really, like, I don't think one game would ever convince me to change the entire focus of the channel.
Yeah.
I think it's that experience that just never wore off. You put that headset on and you just go, oh man, this is the first time in like 30 years that video games has really evolved. You know, it's been these slow little tiny steps and then this massive revolution instead of tiny evolutions.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, there's tons of experiences. Like the whole channel is littered with us saying like, "Oh, this is the game that made me fall in love with this." Is, it's. I think you nailed it. This is everything we've seen up to now has been just a slight change in quality.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the first. I mean, quantity. Sorry, I meant quantity. Quantity of pixels, quantity of shaders, quantity of hardware. You know, just like the same things,
more
just
bits.
more and more and more. Exactly, more bits. This is the first qualitative change in gaming since I don't even think the change between black and white and color, from Pong to
Atari.
I'm trying to like what's the first color game, and that was like a stupid comparison. But anyways, it's so radically different. Maybe the difference between like flat gaming and 3D first-person perspective games, but even that, this is such a different thing. I mean, Eagle Flight, I guess. Rush of Blood.
Oh, love Rush of Blood.
Honestly, for me, like it was an experience. It was the Alumet.
Yeah.
That's one thing I keep coming back to, where I first saw the potential for the change in how storytelling and how developers could actually use this tool totally differently than anything we've ever seen. So go watch Alumet. It's still free mostly everywhere now.
Yeah, I think it's still on the first demo disc, right?
Yep.
And I think, you know, like I say Resident Evil, I say Rush of Blood, but I think it's the experience of having loved horror movies my whole life and having loved haunted houses. I was like, oh, here's a way to actually have a haunted house in my living room.
Yeah.
Be like, this is as real gets, and being scared to a new level, to a new degree, and like actually fearing for my life in a video game. I was like, that's something I never thought I'd experience, and I love it. Love it. I know Des is broken, but I love it. Can I borrow your sheet for the last one? Mine ran out of ink. Okay.
Oh, now we just ruined the entire image of that. Actually, my laptop's not on.
Yeah, it was just a very expensive paper holder. Not that expensive, I guess. The last one comes from Terrence Hughes. This is going to be an easy one. On Viewer Takeover, he writes, #Viewer Takeover. With the realization that you guys are not medical professionals.
Damn.
Thanks for ruining it for us.
Sorry.
My degree is now useless. What is or are your opinions?
A doctor in cryptozoology.
What are your opinions on children hopping into a VR session? We have a 6-year-old that is very intrigued and loves the experiences, but the wife and I limit him to 10-minute sessions due to the disclaimer at the beginning of the games and lack of documented studies of possible negative effects. Do you have any children in your personal lives that are allowed to play VR? Do you have any restrictions or observations?
So the one phrase that keeps coming to mind on this is absence of evidence is not evidence of absence.
Right.
Okay. We don't know. Okay. And we don't know doesn't mean, oh, we do know and it's safe. It also doesn't mean, oh, we do know and it's dangerous. It means we don't know.
Right.
It means, so we can't tell you. For me personally, I like to err on the side of caution. If my kids do play it, I have soon to be a 13-year-old, terrifying, I know, right?
Yeah.
And a 10-year-old, and if they do play, it's for a very short amount of times. It's not a never ever ever. I don't think anything in life is just like, oh, you do this once and you're ruined forever. But it's not. Well, okay. And as we mentally go through the list of just there are many things actually.
55, 56, 57. Crazy.
What does lava taste like?
Delicious. You got to try everything once, Des.
Yeah. But my point being, like, we cannot make any presumption to speak for you and what you should do with your kids. That's been our stance from the beginning. All I can say was what I do with mine. It's like the jury's still out. There's no long-term evidence on this either way, we
won't know for a while. Like this, you put some kids in VR right now, we're not going to know for 10 years like how that affected them.
Yeah, and the biggest issue for anyone who doesn't know why this might be a problem, one of the biggest concerns is you've got a screen this close telling your brain that you're seeing something that's far away.
Like meters away.
Right.
Yeah.
And in a brain that's still developing its visual cortex, it's still figuring out how to see in 3 dimensions, which you don't really get totally nailed to your well into your teens. There is reason to be concerned, but there's no evidence either way.
Right.
So.
Yeah, as somebody who doesn't have kids for very good reason, because if I had kids, like I'd be like dragging them to like the movie theater every week, watching bringing my 6-year-old to the newest scary movie, right, and like damaging him for life. But that's just how I would raise my kids.
Pissing off everyone else in the room.
Right. Like, but here's the other part of this. Like I would be like, go ahead, play VR. I don't care. Because I'm a horrible person. I'd be a horrible parent, right? And I just be like, do whatever you want, man. Like, just do it. But as long as you're in the safety of, the house. The issue I have is when people go to like Facebook or they go to Reddit or they go to any of these public forums in a PlayStation VR community, start posting pictures and videos of their kids playing games and then not expecting to get to get a little bit of a lashback for it because everyone's got opinions. Everyone's got opinions, whether they're right or wrong, right? You are going to hear from a bunch of people that think you're suddenly a bad parent. You're going to hear from a bunch of people who suddenly think that you're the worst person on the face of the planet. Like, just keep in mind, if you start posting pictures of your kid playing VR games, do it on your personal page. If you do it in a public PlayStation VR forum, you are going to hear from everybody, and you're going to get everyone's opinion, and you're going to start wars and arguments, and it's just always not pretty. And so, personally, I don't care what you do with your kids. Yeah. But just as a warning, like to save yourself the hassle, I wouldn't post those kind of pictures or videos in those kind of public forums.
And as far as observations, I haven't noticed any difference, but again, I haven't really done enough. And you're going to hear like, oh, my kid plays 6 hours a day and he's fine. It's like, well, these are my science geek things. The plural of anecdote is not data. Okay, just because it worked for you,
I like that
once does not mean that's the truth. Okay, you could be the outlier. You could be totally right, and you know what? 5 years from now, we're gonna say, "Gee, why were we ever worried?" Turns out it's perfect. Turns out it's great for kids. It makes them gives them supervision. Like they don't need glasses anymore. It's the cure for everything wrong with society.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. That's not gonna happen. But if it does,
anything's possible.
Yeah. I suppose. But as it stands right now, we don't know, but we can't tell you what to do with your kids.
Right.
Yep.
And that's it.
All right.
Awesome. Sorry that this episode was late. I had already done almost an hour and a half Gamescast alone the other day because of the snow, because of kids. And I really didn't want to do another viewer takeover with just me. I thought that would be like, I don't know, just kind of like pushing out content to push out content. So thank you for being patient and waiting 24 hours for this episode. Hopefully it was worth the wait.
Good news, it was almost 24 hours long itself. So
this was a really long episode. we got to make it up to them.
Yeah.
Remember to support us on Patreon, patreon.com/withoutparole.
Games.
And also hashtag viewer takeover if you've got a hashtag viewer takeover question. Also hashtag GameCat, because you should all be changing your name to GameCat. Evan, WTF man, WTF. I saw you changed it back. I'm keeping an eye on you guys. Right? How dare they? He, she. Is Evan a girl's name or a boy's name?
I don't know. I don't care anymore.
I don't know either. I'm really bad at this. Anyway, meow.
Keep your name whatever you want. That's fine. As long as it has GameCat in it.
Fine. Make Brian sad. Whatever. Don't care what Brian thinks. As always, I'm Brian Paul. That's Desra, and we'll see you, I'm sure, very, very soon.
Yes. Bye.
That was a good episode, even if it was really long. Oh, wake up. You still have a review to do.
I know.